All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Morris, co-director of Writing on the Wall, and welcome to the Writers Block, which is Writing on the Wall's online writing centre that was launched in response to the lockdowns and the pandemic to try and get people interacting, get them creative, get them through lockdown, get them published, get them talking, do many, many other things. The Writers Block has hosted many, many writers now since it was launched in 2020 from across the world. Even have writers from America who've been our writer on the block. And the idea is that we have a residency by a writer who provides free workshops, masterclasses, and one-to-one support to be able to help you get creative, get you into a community of writers, and hopefully get your work out there in one way or another. Tonight, I'm really, really, really delighted to welcome as our next writer on the block, who's going to be doing a 3-week residency from today, which is PJ Smith, or AKA Roy, who is not a poet, but his words are very, very poetic. I first met PJ back in 2010, I think it was, when he was published a chapter in our Pulp Idol novel writing competition anthology Firsts, which I'm going to pick up on that a little bit later with him. And but since then, PJ, who's writing that huge promise then, has really gone on to some amazing things. He was featured as part of the BBC Six Music events in Liverpool. He's been commissioned by the Liverpool Everyman Playhouse to do a love letter to Liverpool as part of their series. And you might have picked up in the last couple of days, he's featured in The Face magazine as well. But most importantly, he's gone on to be a published writer in his own right with this amazing collection, Algorithm Party, that came out with Rough Trade Books in 2020. He's also well known for coordinating and partly being the face of La Violette and the events that they hold in Liverpool on a regular basis that has an eclectic mix of performers, including Roy, who take part in their events, normally at Studio 2. And he is a recovery worker, works with Damien John Kelly House, working with people recovering from addiction. And he's gigging all over the country at the moment, but we've managed to bag him for 3 weeks in Liverpool to do the Writers Block as our writer on the block. Hi, PJ. How you doing,
Hello,
mate?
Mike. Yeah, good, mate. Sound. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure, mate. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the residency. How are you feeling about it?
Excited, really looking forward to it, and looking forward to reading other people's work.
Have you done this type of thing before?
No, not like this, no. No, I haven't. It'll be the first go.
All right. And what's your approach, do you think, when it gets into the into doing the residency with people?
It's to get people kind of not writing about the prompts I'm giving. I'm trying to steer them away from the predictability type stuff.
Yeah.
Where you'd expect it to go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I kind of gave you a brief intro there in terms of your own writing. And I kind of, wondering how to get into this really. We know we're going to take a reading from you in a minute. I just mentioned there, because I had a quick scan back over 2010 Pulp Idol.
Yeah.
You were published in that, weren't you?
Yeah.
The first chapter called Reinstated.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever written.
Really?
I was 30 years old then, and I was going to another group, and they said you should do this Pulp Idol thing, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And so somebody else entered my piece of work without me knowing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it just kept getting through. And it kept getting through, and I was like, fucking hell. And then the next minute, it was like, you're in the final, and you've got to read in front of the panel and that. But that was probably the first time I thought, I got that kind of buzz thing and thought, this is all right, this. I like what I'm doing. Other people seem to like it. I might carry on. That was the first time that ever happened to me.
Interesting on that. When I look back on it, I just had a quick scan through the everyone else who's in the book on sorry, I'm getting interrupted with little chat things. It's probably Zoom as they're coming up on me thing. The people who were published in that, out of the 10 or 11 people published in it, including yourself, 4 people went on to be published. And Debbie Morgan, John Donoghue, and James Rice. And obviously you're published as well. When you did that, because obviously that was kind of like a first chapter for a novel writing competition, but you've taken a bit of a different route. Just tell us a little bit about your journey then, from then or whenever into where you are now.
So that being the first time I ever did anything and kind of wrote like that, and having that buzz and then that finishing, but then thinking, what shall I do with this? What am I writing for? Who am I showing it to? And at that point, I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. And what I used to do was kind of write stories, print them off, and say to me mate, who was going to an away match on a coach, take that on the coach and just pass it round and see what happens. And sometimes nothing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'd get, Pete, the fucking lads loved your story on that coach. And then I think this is around the time Everton were actually like, all right, and they were travelling away to Europe, and I'd say, take that on the plane, take a few of them, leave it on some, just that type of stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just liked to write short stories for me mates at that point. That was as far as my ambition went. Entertain your mates for 20 minutes or whatever. That was it.
I mean, that's really interesting. And, in a way, I mean, with Rough Trade, who publish it almost like in a zine format, there's a little bit of that kind of DIY kind of, approach to things, which is interesting. And I think also as well, one thing that we get asked a lot writing on the wall is, how do I get published? What is it? Because just to continue about Pulp Idol, one of the reasons I had the idea for that going back to, well, I think that one there, you publishing, was the first one that we printed. Prior to that, we had maybe, I'm not sure whether it was 2 years, where the kind of prize, if you like, was we had like a residential that we took people on. But the idea of Pulp Idol was because it was to try and build a bridge between, at that point, between Liverpool specifically, and the kind of mainly London-based publishing industry, because lots of people, it's kind of so mysterious in some ways. How do you publish it? And people send off to an agent, and whether it's a yes or a no, it can take at least 3 months. But you were getting immediate feedback from doing that.
Yeah, and they were the people I wanted it off at that point. I didn't care much what a publisher would think of it. It was just like, these people, my mates, lads I know from football or whatever, they'll tell me if it's shit. They'll just go like, and they did at times, like, I didn't like that one, crap, that one, it wasn't believable.
Yeah.
And other times they were like, this one got passed on the coach. Everyone was laughing their head off at it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, okay. They were, and that's kind of what I do now with the audience of Violette. They're like me test audience type thing. And
I think quite often, if you're sending off to agents or on whichever genre you kind of writing them, whether it's theatre or script or whatever, I think a lot of people, until you get kind of officially accepted, people really struggle or are nervous about describing themselves as a writer. But it sounds to me like you had some confidence there to kind of say, I am writing here.
Yeah. Nobody I knew as when I was younger and growing up, nobody I knew was like creative or anything. But then as I got to my teenage years and started to meet people who were in bands and that, like the area where I grew up, it just wasn't really the done thing. And then as I got a little bit older, I started to meet writers and photographers and all that. And I think it just rubbed off on me, just like what you are, what you're around type thing. And I just thought, well, I can't play the guitar, I can't sing, I haven't got a camera, I've got a fucking pen, I'll give it a go. And I've read loads of books, and some of them are amazing and some of them I thought I could do better myself. I might as well give it a go. That was, I didn't have a plan at all. I came to have a plan, but in the beginning there wasn't one.
You know, it's an interesting thing, is that thing about you are kind of what's around you as well. There's lots of talk, and it's, you know, it's kind of much more these days than when you started writing, or when we as well started, about working class culture and working class writing. And one of the things is about it, why is it so hard, if you like, why are we dominated by, you know, a more middle class and an upper middle class culture, and why is it working class writers can't come through? Now, there are lots of reasons within the publishing industry itself, but I kind of think that there's an element of that from our side, if you like, is that, you know, you don't grow up around, even though actually music is the area where I think working class people are much more creative, but you don't necessarily grow up around a kind of creative culture. And in many ways, and I think you touch on this in some of your work as well, you know, people are afraid to put their heads above the parapet.
Mm.
Do you think that yourself?
Yeah. When with that Pulp Idol book, I remember giving me mate a copy, and he kept it in his house, and it was one of these houses where people would come and go, and he'd show them, he'd say, oh, look, PJ wrote this story. And like, then I'd be there, and some of the lads would come in, and they'd be like, what, you? And I was like, yeah, me. And they go, why? You know what I mean? It was like that Bill Hicks sketch, you know, where
yeah,
looks like we got ourselves a reader. Yeah, what are you reading for?
The waffle rakers.
Yeah. They were saying to me, not in a disparaging way, or they just couldn't fathom it out. What are you writing for?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing that for? I didn't have an answer for them.
But you did kind of get into it. Like, you know, other people may have read this in other places, but for people who didn't, you had a bit of a rocky background, didn't you? You know.
Yeah, just school was. I opted out of school. I left when I was about 15, but the bits where I was in, I didn't mind it. I was all right academically. I was all right sports, but I just kind of like, I remember in junior school, actually, in junior school was one of the first times I wrote a story and enjoyed it. I was about 10, and our school was very religious, and it was like some kind of scripture class, and we all had to write a story. And I wrote Love Thy Neighbour, and it was about a Liverpool fan getting battered and an Everton fan helping him, type thing. And I wrote just like 10 pages, which was just fucking unthinkable when I was 9 or something. And I won this competition. And there was a presentation in school, in the church, and he read my name out, you've won. And I was like, fucking hell, when I got up, the prize was a Bible. I was like, oh, fuck that, man. You know, I've done all them 10 pages for that, you know what I mean? But I remember
greatest story ever told.
Yeah. It was the first time I ever wrote a story. Then secondary school, just smoking weed, and school just bored me, really. We didn't do much reading in school, just the usual of mice and men. You know, like, there isn't like everyone's kind of got that story of an inspiring teacher, and that there wasn't one in our school. I didn't engage with it that much to have that story. No.
Yeah. And then following on from that, without necessarily going into too much, then you had your own kind of alcohol problems and addiction problem.
Yeah, and that just kind of happened slowly. It happened slowly. There weren't like mass big events where I was kind of off the scale. It was just a subtle build up until I got to the age in my early 20s when I knew there's something not right here, something unnatural about my relationship with drugs and alcohol. And but it wasn't a complete wasted era, because I absorbed a lot of like art in them then, like music and books. I was reading and listening to lots and lots of it, and without knowing, it's really influenced how I write. now.
I read an interesting thing that you said, that somebody encouraged you to go to an AA meeting, and although it didn't have the immediate effect in terms of immediately giving up, there was a guy who stood up and he said, you remember not so much what he said, but how he made you feel. And from then on, or following on from that, necessarily not immediately, you started telling the truth. And you described in one interview your writing as true fiction.
Yeah, that sounds about right, that, yeah. I like coming off stage and someone going to, and having, I can feel this thing in the audience where they're like, that can't be true, can it? They don't know. They don't know whether it's true or not. And some of it is and some of it isn't. But I quite like that feeling, like just stretching it a bit.
Yeah. Well, before, because, you know, the thing is, and we will get into this, there is kind of a thing about, you know, kind of meaning in stuff. But what I would say is, and I found this going back to the pool paddles. I remember it well. I remember, you know, I think, well, I did, because I, you know, edited it and put it together and all of that type of thing. What I want to say first of all is, I think your stories are brilliantly entertaining. I think they're funny. I think they're really engaging. And I think what's interesting as well, because I before you were published, I'd heard you, well, not obviously not so much with the full paddle chapter, but I'd heard you reading. So it's a bit of a reverse way, but in a way, it's like what you've got down in Algorithm Party and the stories in there. Hearing you read them out live is a bit of the equivalent of, you know, when you get a new album or whatever and you're listening to it, and you know, and some tracks, you know, they're brilliant. It might be a brilliant album, you know, but there's nothing comparable to hearing the band when they play them live. And there's some tracks that just come alive on stage, don't necessarily live that well on the vinyl, if you like. And I think it's quite amazing, really, to be able to do the two, because I think, you know, whenever I hear you read them and other stuff that's not in Algorithm Party, you know, there's something new in there. Do you feel the same? I mean, you've kind of gone a reverse way, I suppose. But what was it like for you taking what you were performing and putting it on the page? And were you worried it wouldn't work? And how does it feel now when you go the other way with it?
Yeah, I was reluctant, because all I did was live gigs, like supporting bands with no real plan of publishing. When the publishing thing started to become a bit of a reality, I thought, this won't work. Like, my stories have an impact when I'm there performing them in a small packed venue. And that's why, like, because people would say to me, you should publish these, and I'd be like, I don't think they'll work. I don't think these stories, and they do, but I think, like, they work better live. I've written most of them for that specific thing, to perform live for a 20-minute set. And I kind of like the drama of reading them out and getting into the acting bit of it as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because there is that thing, why Roy? What is it with this persona for the stage? And I think you love being on the stage. And I'm not wrong with owning that as well, you know, and I love seeing you perform. Why Roy? Why wasn't it PJ? Was this something in the cupboard you thought, right, I'm going to try this on?
I don't know. I really don't know. Didn't want to use my real name. I'm not sure why, just because my real name is Paul Smith, so it's the most plain, boring, common name you can get. And then somebody said, well, what do you want to use then? And I don't know why I said Roy, but I said it, and it stuck. And that's it. It just stuck. And I thought, well, it's Roy now. Can't change it. I went on a poster as Roy and thought, well, that's it. I'm Roy now.
Do you feel like you're stepping into somebody else, another coat, if you like, or something, when you're kind of on the stage as Roy? Do you come off the stage and do you walk around your flat thinking, you know, I am Roy, or do you know what I mean?
No, when I get up there, I'm performing, but I don't have to get into a role or anything like that. It's just me with a different name.
Okay, well, look, let's get into some. 'Cause I'm going to be people on here who haven't heard you read, and you're going to read from a story called, or read the story, Press to Release. So let's get into that, and I'll come back and pick up on a few things from that. And we'll talk about the block a bit as well.
Okay. Okay. Press to Release. This smoggy, grey Tuesday afternoon has remained dry, which is more than can be said for Melissa. The aftermath of last night's escapades are shadowing her as she struggles to evade the brown puddles of leftovers from yesterday's mini storm. Her off-white Converse pumps somehow managing to maintain their pristine condition. Given the choice, Melissa would much rather be sat off inside, cozied up with the heating on full blast, her copy and pasted face begrudgingly agreeing that the reality of her drunken self is just an illusion, whiling the hours away in a state of 1986ness, swinging the lead and staying off school, gazing out the window and drinking chicken cuppa soups, dipping toast in them, her mum blasting Like a Virgin on the silver Amstrad stereo before her husband gets home and fucks everything up again. Not today though. Melissa needs a drink. Doesn't particularly want one, it's just gotta be done. The impulsive trip to the offie for 3 bottles of Echo Falls and 40 Richmond Super Kings has been transformed into quite the expedition. There's been a pit stop at the Lord Warden on London Road. Melissa feels secure in there. They know her from the area, but she doesn't think any of them know her about her past life, which suits her fine. No one's asked anyway. Not a single soul has bothered to ask or even wonder why such an attractive, young, stylish woman is choosing to rot off in there on a semi-regular basis. She's pleasing on the eye, smells spectacular, and doesn't usually crack on with her antics until they've all got off. Daytime drinking is for professionals. They don't want to be around when the amateurs appear and start acting up. Plus, she gets the ale in now and again. Not really out of kindness or goodness, more of a craving for acceptance, a plea for them to like her, a call for love. All right, Jim, Peroni, please. I've only got Carlin on draft today, girl. Do us a bottle of Beck's then, in a glass with a bit of lime, please. Wine is for house drinking, lager is for pub drinking, and vodka is for club drinking. Melissa is on this. She dumps her handbag on the bar and rummages through it. Jim gets asked to keep an eye on it while she clutches her purse and breaks into a jog over to the mini market across the road. A gaggle of Turkish lads are engaged in a heated debate outside a barber shop. A barber shop with A4 headshots all over the interior walls. Fellas with intricate hairstyles no one has ever asked for. The heated debate has paused for a moment as the wacky haircutted lads check Melissa's arse out. She's aware, but tries to blend by lashing the hood of her Montclair coat right over her head. One of the Turks, who's got elasticated ankles on his jeans, stares right into Melissa's eyes as she exits the shop and tears the cellophane wrapper off the box of ciggies. Melissa does not like this. It's invasive. She pulls her hood further down her face and scrambles around for a lighter, but it's in her handbag. Her Vivian Westwood handbag in the pub. If she has to wait for that, it means she won't be able to smoke for at least another 60 seconds. One of the Turks is getting fronted. Any of you's got a light? Despite the request being deliberately delivered, devoid of any politeness, 3 lighters are immediately thrust in her general direction. Melissa selects a black and white checkered one. It's got the word Besiktas emblazoned on it. Not that Melissa gives a fuck. She just needs a flame now. The backy buzz still floating around her head. She's lashed more than half the ciggy before she's even crossed the threshold of the pub. Jim has lined her a couple of lager and limes up. Giving her a pint glass didn't seem right. They've all been trying to guess how much Melissa's handbag was worth while she's been at the shop. They've only been guessing in 3 figures though, so they're way out. Melissa swigs from one of her glasses as she puts her makeup on. She casually trudges out this morning with yesterday's clothes on, masked by a shitload of Tom Ford perfume. The regulars are oblivious. They're too engrossed in the 1210 from Kempston that's beaming out the telly. Melissa orders more drinks. She's got the taste for it now. The embers of the previous night's fire have been reignited and she's off. Well and truly off. Anyone with an eye for drunken detail will know when there's about to be trouble. It's not a sixth sense, more just the 5 you do have are tuned right in. Melissa's is when her left leg starts to idly swing on the bar stool. All vicious drunks have giveaway signs. The problem being, once you've clocked what they are, it's too late. You're either married to them or in jail. The punters have just learned how to ignore her without antagonising her. If everyone refrains from making eye contact, she just zones out on her phone. Facebook and Instagram usually, but the world of online gambling has also recently been discovered. Hey everyone, did you know Popty Ping is Welsh for microwave? No one responds, except Melissa herself. She's howling, throwing her head back exaggeratedly and slapping the bar with her fingers. More ale, Jim, and whatever these old bastards are having, inject a bit of life into the place, eh? The old boys have raised the volume on the telly, and Melissa has taken this personally. She storms up to the jukebox, which is fairly and unbelievably up to date. Melissa slots a £2 coin into it and selects one of her favourite tunes, Get Lucky by Daft Punk. She then proceeds to dance, get the words wrong, and insult the people around her. You're all boring cunts. Look at yous. It's directed at no one, but also everyone. Let's get a thing. Come on, who's throwing in? Jim doesn't want her taking drugs in here, but she is a spender, and no one else seems to be that arsed. Her favourite song finishes and is followed by Stardust's Music Sounds Better With You. Melissa has returned to her seat now, where her dancing consists of pointing each index finger alternatively to the heavens and nodding her head to the beat. She invariably starts to frantically go through her phone. Just as a WhatsApp message comes through, it's her ma. Where are you? Ellie is worried sick. Please get home. A big fuck off slice of guilt cuts right through her solar plexus. Sharp enough to stop her. Is it fuck? Right on cue, Dignity by Deacon Blue booms out the dookie. Melissa slides a hand inside her yellowy grey Victoria's Secret bra and retrieves a pile of £20 notes. Come on then, everyone. Let's have this. Come on. She's lost in music. A couple of £20 notes fall to the floor. No one tells her. She goes for a ciggy on the step, or sort of half on the entrance, leaning against the door frame. A moody draft swells the place up, but no one's got the plums to ask her to close the door. The 19 bus rolls past along London Road. A woman Melissa doesn't recognise begins to point and laugh at her. Her reaction is to extend her middle finger and mouth the word twat. When returning to the bar, it doesn't register that the jukebox has been unplugged. She has noticed that a couple of hard-faced women with TJ Hughes carrier bags have sat down near her. What the fuck are you two looking at? They don't want to know. They've seen this all before. Melissa's snarl is over once she spots that 40 quid on the floor. The dust seems to be settling. It's all gone quiet over there. That is, until some fella charges in. He's smartly dressed, apart from letting himself down with a rab cap. He makes a beeline for Melissa. Before she knows anything about it, he's got his hands around her throat and is screaming in her face. No one moves. Get the fuck home now. Look at the state of you. You're an absolute fucking disgrace. Melissa is powerless. She gets dragged out by her hair. Jim says nothing. He recognises the fella. It's Brian Scanlon. When it's all died down, one of the owl fellas plugs the jukebox back in and puts Rhinestone Cowboy on. One of the hard-faced women orders a couple of Southern Comforts and lemonade. Take your own, Jim. Cheers, love. You wouldn't think she won that Big Brother, would you? No, it wasn't that one. It was the Jungle, wasn't it? I don't know. At home, Melissa's mum sits crying. It's raining heavily, and a cover version of the Pretenders' I'll Stand By You is playing on the radio. She wishes her daughter had never went on that stupid bastard of a reality TV show.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very, very much. Two things about that story. First off, enter Brian Scanlon. I'm going to come back to Brian Scanlon in a minute. I'm going to ask you where his brother is, by the way, because it was the Scanlon brothers back in there, that Pulp Idol one that you did.
Yeah.
But secondly, somebody made the point that, you know, you write about working class men, and yet that's not the case, is it? You look at this one, Melissa, the central character of the story. I mean, there's lots of humour in that, but it's a difficult kind of read at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah. The idea was just like, I had a small idea about like a girl who went on a reality show and kind of thought she had it all, and a few months later has just been discarded by the shows and the magazines, and she just sits in a pub all day because she thought her life was going to change. She was going to be famous forever, and that wasn't the case. And Brian is involved, obviously, that makes an appearance at the end.
There is that thing, isn't it, about, I always remember that one of the reality shows, someone saying, you know, I just want to be famous, and you're a bit like, well, what for?
Yeah.
And, you know, you made the point in another story, Paintball's Coming Home, about this thing about a guy says, you know, someone mentions the phrase, I had a hole in my soul, and he says it just sticks with him. And you kind of feel that with Melissa. It's something that I think kind of, you know, goes through a lot of your stories in a certain sense. Is that something you're conscious of here?
Yeah, I tend to write a lot about that. I think because I've had experience of it where you just kind of acquiring things, or nothing's quite filling this void. You know, drugs didn't do it, alcohol didn't do it, getting a bigger telly didn't do it, that type of stuff. And honestly, as like cheesy as this sounds, becoming creative and writing and meeting interesting people and doing things like this, it does like, you know,
I was just thinking of a couple of words that kind of ring out of me with the word with your writing is menace, anxiety, and humanity.
Yeah, I'm glad about that. Yeah, because the guy who had made an appearance. So this story is one in a trilogy. It's the first one, but the trilogy is about Brian, even though he only appears once in the first one. But I know, you know, if you grow up in Liverpool, you know people like Brian, and he is menacing. These people are menacing. They're not like comedy figures of fun. They're dangerous people, and I wanted them to come across like that. But also, like, when I write about him, I want to see the other side of him, which is not like, well, why is he like that?
Yeah.
Not like what's wrong with him, but, you know, what happened to him type thing. What experiences has he had to make him the way he is? Yeah.
But, you know, what you say is true. I think we've all met or know those characters. And there's that reaction to them, isn't it? Because a beautiful piece, which I think is incredibly truthful, in the story from A to B, where the character is going to meet Brian Scanlon.
Mm.
And on the way, he says, I pay attention to an odd sensation that runs through my body, originating in my stomach, but ending up in my arms strangely. I recognize this. It's not new. I want to impress Brian, but I don't really know why. That's a powerful thing, I think.
Yeah. And as a teenage boy or as a young man, you spend a lot of your time doing that, trying to impress other men, thinking you'll attain something from it. If I can just impress him, I'll be all right. And you know, that's never the case. But a lot of teenage boys still carry on trying to do it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the other thing, the other word to add to those three was acceptance.
Yeah.
And you know, there's something about each kind of character really that is, you know, in multiple kind of ways. It's reflecting that, I think, you know, this thing about wanting to find relevance, wanting to be someone, you know, and that maybe that goes back to that thing about, you know, in the society we live in, people say, well, I just want to be famous, you know, it's like, what is that, you know?
You can't fix an internal problem with an external solution type thing and all that. But I had those experiences like growing up, but I never knew at the time. It was only with hindsight when I kind of had some therapy in that and looked back and went, oh man, you know, you just look back and it's so obvious and you go, I've had this belief that I'm inferior or less than. So I've tried to act the complete opposite end of the scale. And because it wasn't genuine or real, people just see right through it, and it makes you believe your kind of false root belief about yourself. So it's just a never-ending cycle of nonsense, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's kind of, for me, what gives the kind of power in here in the work, whether it's written or kind of performed, is, you know, I mean, there's nothing, even though it's full on and it kind of, you know, it really doesn't, you know, kind of pull the punches in terms of characters and what they're up to, like Melissa there. But and this is the thing, is I think writing about working class people being working class it's not disparaging, it's not judgmental.
Yeah.
Kind of exploration of what's happening here in motion.
Yeah, I never wanted to be sneering, like, ha, look at these stupid people. I never wanted to be like that. It's not like that. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. In the sequel to that story, there's a horrible, horrible bit where Brian ends up in jail, and he's in jail, and in his cell is a black guy in his cell, and there's a bit where he gives him some racist abuse. And I had to think about it when I was writing it. Like, what can I do? And I just went for it. And I thought, well, and I asked two people I know who grew up in Walton and were black, were in a massive minority. And I showed them the piece of writing and I said, you know, what do you think of this? And they went, yeah, that's what we dealt with day in, day out. He wouldn't call us a light-hearted name. He would call us that.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it's staying in. It's staying in then. But it was horrible, absolutely horrible. But
yeah, well, there's the thing, isn't it? You know, once you're writing there, let's talk about the writing a little bit, because you create a character, and I don't imagine that character comes necessarily fully formed. Are you then in for the ride with that character, thinking, okay, where does and is the character taking you somewhere?
I'm just constant, like, a bit wary of, I don't want him to be an out and out villain, which is what he might appear to be to most people on the surface. But then I don't want to make excuses for him either. So it's a bit of a thin line, really. But he needs to be believable.
Yeah.
He needs to be believable. And I think so far he's the one people tune into and are like, yeah, we know someone like that. I've had it loads. I've walked off stage loads and someone's collared me like dead serious and gone, my fucking brother's like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? And they've had a few drinks and all that. And
yeah,
I'm like, oh no. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sends a shiver through me, you know, because
Yeah.
you know I've been around them people,
Yeah.
you know, when you're younger, and you kind of think, "Phew, you make the wrong decisions here. You are, you know, you're going down a path that you wouldn't want to go down, you know."
Yeah.
But I think in the workshops that you're going to do, we're going to kind of, you know, hopefully explore some of this in terms of characters.
Yeah.
What was when we talked earlier about you writing and kind of getting started? Can I ask, as being published and you know, call it fame, call it notoriety, whatever you want to call it, you know, your Six Music, your gigging, you know, the Face magazine, has that kind of changed, or has it changed in your writing or your approach to your writing?
I would say no, but then so it's a bit fairly in a privileged position because since the pamphlet come out, I've had a couple of TV production companies contact me and say, we read it, we read your pamphlet. Would you be interested in writing for telly? And I am very interested in writing for telly, but I don't really know how to. I only know how to sit in this spot here on my couch with a pen and my pad and just write short stories. So I've never done scripts or screenwriting, so I'm just kind of winging it. But I told them straight up, I said, I've never written a script, blah, blah, blah. They were like, don't, listen, write it on a slate with a crayon if you want. If it's good enough, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the blocks I was putting in my own way, they don't really exist. I had to learn how to write an outline and all that type of stuff, but anything new frightens me. But what I did, I said to someone, do you know what an outline is? And he went, yeah, I've got one. I went, can I have a look? And he showed me and I went, is that it? Fucking hell, yeah, I can do that. That'll take me about an hour maximum. Yeah, I was just scared to ask, really. Fear of looking stupid.
Well, again, that's back to that fear, isn't it? You know, in a sense. You know what? I mean, I've read, you know, if you've read them, but the likes of Stephen King on writing and that, and you know, I kind of think that there's many people who write about writing, and you know, and I think you have to take from it in a way what suits you best. But I read something that you said that I thought was really good. You said, ignore all rules for writers, which is good, but you know, lots of people say that. But then you said, just write and trust.
Yeah, that's what I was doing in the beginning. Don't sit and stare at a page till your eyes bleed, like, because that's just write. So even if in the beginning it's just a load of nonsense and 4 or 5 pages and it's 95% crap, but I might have this little nugget, think, I can start again with that little nugget. And that's how I write, really, just kind of like a process of elimination. But yeah, I'd just write and in the beginning wouldn't have plans and see where they go and just trust that it was going to be all right, rather than, I never scrunch pieces of paper up and throw them in the bin.
All right. Okay.
No, I just carry on and see what happens.
And do you think, you know, just you know, in terms of the writing, in terms of the humanity in that, do you feel, because I know obviously you work in the recovery field with the brilliant Damon John Kelly House, do you think you're informed a lot by that, by seeing, you know, people in various kind of stages, obviously, you know, and that kind of humanity that, you know, people aren't just one-sided kind of characters?
Yeah, definitely around, like, seeing people, seeing beyond people's behavior and stuff like that, as really, it helps with the writing. It helps me write about characters, because yeah, most people just go, he behaves like that, therefore he is and it's really not that simple. Human beings are more complex than that.
And so I read somewhere that you'd started the script.
Yeah, I've done something for stage and something for screen, and they're both not finished, but they both feel all right. They both feel like they're going to be really good. The stage one thing, it's like a 3-act play, but the screen one, just things started moving with a TV production company, and she was like, right, you know, do me an outline and get a pilot written. And I was like, so that's what I've been doing, and yeah, I think it's going to go somewhere. Don't know when or in how long, but something shifted in my head whereas a few months ago I thought, I can't do this. I've got no experience. Something shifted where I now think, yeah, I can.
Well, you know what? You don't know your limitations until you try, do you? But you also don't learn until you try as well, I guess. Question just come up there relating to the recovery, saying that do you think writing aids recovery?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen it. I've seen it where I work now. I'm seeing it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're doing a project with you at the moment,
yeah.
aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people, more than a couple of people, kind of get clean and sober, get some new friends, get some new hobbies, but then a few months down the line, just flatline, go, is this it?
Yeah.
But then I've seen others who have got into things like photography, things like art, making collages, painting, and more recently, writing. And having that experience I had all them years ago, where you go, I can actually do this. I thought this was just for people who've been to uni or been on writing workshops or a middle class or whatever. Just that's a magical moment when you realise I can. This is for me. This as well. That art is for everyone or anyone. Yeah.
You know, it's that thing, isn't it, about going back to a soul in a way, because we talk a lot about art and culture and, you know, the impact that can have. And, you know, for some people, you just engage in it. You go and see films, you go and see plays, you read books and all of that. But there is that thing I quite often think for people who are kind of on the drift, if you like, in some ways. It's almost like that thing about creativity. It's not just writing, you're right, it's photography, it could be anything. It's kind of finding that thing within yourself and being comfortable with that and finding a way to express it. Maybe that's the power of it, you know.
Yeah, and the feeling of because in the beginning, all the way back to them pulp idol days, I didn't have anything to do, mate. I was like, I didn't have a job. I didn't have many friends because I was trying to get away from the ones that were using drugs and all. I didn't have much to do. And I went to this writing group once a week. And just that one piece of writing, like, oh yeah, I've got to hand one in next Wednesday, so I work on it all week. Gave me such a purpose. As small as it seems, I thought, I've got something to do. Yeah. And it feels all right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? How, you know, even if you just get down a page of work and you walk away feeling quite kind of fulfilled on that.
Yeah.
How do you know? Because that's the thing I wanted to ask you. When was the first time you know something, or how do you know when something really stands up? Is it something you have a purpose to sit down and write, or does it rise up off the page for you?
Most of the time it just comes out of nowhere. Just comes. I'll have a very basic opening or idea, even if it's just something, oh, I know, I'll run with a mistaken identity idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, something will happen. That's the bit about trust. Something will just happen. Not every time, like, but something happens and I think this is good. I can turn this into a classic short story.
Brilliant. I've got a couple of questions coming in, so I'm going to throw them at you, okay? Do you psych yourself up before going on stage?
No, weirdly, I felt more nervous about doing this than I did going on stage at the arena the other month. I don't get nervous before gigs, weirdly enough. Yeah, I get nervous in a lot of other areas of my life, but not before gigs. I just feel really calm and relaxed and I enjoy it.
was going to say, I forgot to mention that you opened up for the Beautiful South, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wow, what was that like?
Yeah, we did 5 gigs together. Like the biggest one of them was at the arena, so it was like 11,000, but it wasn't that full at the time. But yeah, it just felt you can't see anyone anyway at those big ones. Sometimes the small ones in tiny rooms with 80 people in and the lights out, they're scarier.
Yeah.
Than that big arena one. Yeah, because you can see people's faces and that. Yeah. The smaller ones, yeah.
And you've got better security, so the crowd can't get at you.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
All right. Is there a song or routine that you do before you go on stage? And no?
Nah, I choose 2 or 3 stories a few hours before and just get up and do them.
Okay. Have you ever played with Sleaford Mods? As I think that would be a classic lineup someone's put up. That would be, by the way.
I haven't, but they're on Rough Trade as well. And I know Jason bought the book and liked it.
Yeah.
But no, I've never done a gig with them.
Okay, well, there's something to look out for. What advice would you give to budding writers who want to write short stories?
Well, I'd say initially, read some of the short stories that you like. So at the moment, there's an author called Wendy Erskine, who's just released her 2nd collection of short stories, and it was her first collection that utterly convinced me, people, because I thought no one really likes short stories, no one will publish them, no one will read them. When I read hers, I went, okay, I'm doing it. Hers are brilliant, really, really good.
Yeah. It's a powerful weapon, a short story, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. Okay. Someone's asked, are you going to continue writing about Brian Scanlon in particular? And do you have any ideas about where he will end up?
I'm going to keep writing about him. No idea where he's going to end up. He's not appeared in the TV stuff yet. I don't know whether he will. But yeah, I'll keep writing about Brian. Okay.
And on the publishing side of things, I'll give you the question. The question is, how do you choose which pieces you wanted to go into Algorithm Party? What was your experience like with Rough Trade on the process of publishing it?
Fairly seamless, actually, because they got in touch, asked me if I was interested. They were the first people to ever ask me. They were the only people to ask me. And I liked their little pamphlets. So I was like, yeah, go on then. And they said, we can either do a 22-page or a 38-page or a 45-page. Send us your stuff. So I sent them about 15 stories. And they were like, right, we can only put 8 in. I was like, okay, sound. And then it was just a process of elimination. I had the most say in it, but they were like, no, we won't put that one in. I wasn't too precious about it, to be honest. Just like, get it out. Yeah.
It's gone down well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, yeah. I think it came out in the lockdown, didn't it? And
2020.
I thought, like, oh, that's not a good thing. I was mainly thinking about gigs. But on the flip side, it was a great thing because everyone was staying in, buying books and stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Someone's asked, in future performances, are you going to be like Lou Reed and refuse to perform your classics?
Yeah, I reckon I will. That's something I'd do. Yeah, just fucking, that's a good idea. Probably just in London, I'll do that. Because London was the only place where, like, I mean, I'm gigging there tomorrow, hoping it'll be different. But I've done a few gigs in London early on. Nobody listened. They just talked through the set, and I was really annoyed and threw a little bit of a tantrum on stage once. And so, yeah, to get them back, I'll probably just, go back and do a Lou Reed in the future.
Someone else has written that the way you write makes us have compassion, the way you write makes us have such compassion and understanding for these characters like Melissa. That's quite a compliment, that I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good to hear because, as I said earlier, I never want to ridicule these people or sneer at them. But to see beyond how they're behaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone just put up that Stuart Lee said if he saw someone use a phone while he was on stage, he would smash it. Are you going to take direct action?
I'm not ruling it out. You never know. I had a gig in Leith the other week, and the bar. So we used to do Studio 2, and it was a soundproof bar.
Yeah.
The bar and the venue were different. Leith isn't. So like, we have breaks in between acts, and it's like, go and get all your drinks then. So I come on and just start and just getting into it. Someone ordered a coffee and the machine just started. So I just stopped. Just went, who's that ordering a coffee? Like, pack it in, wait, just wait for that. And it was me mate. It was me mate, actually. Yeah, Tom.
Well, you know, I remember when we started Pulp Idol, I wanted to take it into places that weren't like traditional. So we were using coffee bars and that. I don't know why, not that I was not that I was around and, teen in the 60s, but I thought coffee bars, they'd be cool places.
Yeah.
They are the noisiest places ever to hold a gig. In fact, I nearly had a stand-up fight with the manager in Borders in Tweak when we had Pulp Idol on. And unfortunately for us, unfortunately for them, it was the hottest day of the year. This is going back many years. And there was a queue down the stairs and out the door for like these iced frappes. And so they had the ice machine on, and he promised us Pulp Idol. Anyway, we didn't come to fisticuffs in the end. So let's just talk very briefly, because we're kind of getting right to the end of the time, about the residency, because I was just looking there. So you've got things like workshops. It's an inside job, looking at characters' innermost thoughts. Then the angel is in the detail, about place, time, and situation. Or fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth. Because obviously the block is about yourself, but it's also about kind of engaging other people, isn't it? What as a writer with your experience and and success to date in terms of publishing, what do you think you're hoping to pass on? And can you throw out a few tips for people as well, just to get them kind of whet their appetite for the residency?
The stuff around the inside job stuff, I do really enjoy writing about people's internal monologue, and it can be either end of the scale. So it can be quite a critical one, or it can be one that's just very cynical and around other people. But that, I think, when I read stories about people and they're going on about what's actually going on in their heads, I'm straight in. I've bought in. If it's good writing, I've bought straight into it, rather than stuff just being described.
Yeah.
And that one about the detail stuff.
Yeah.
There's a fine line with the detail stuff. You can like describe stuff for 2 pages that can be done in 1 sentence, but the detail is important. There's a lot of it in my stories, usually just around an item of clothing or a song that's playing, but they can really build the scene.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's interesting. I kind of find that when I'm reading your stuff, that that detail, without it being worn lightly, kind of really authenticates the story. I think. Yeah. I think that thing, Melissa just swinging her leg off the bar stool.
So that one, like our family, like one side, they're all like what they just call themselves, like they like a drink. Me and my mum know they're all alcoholics, but that's me nan's sign. When we were kids, we knew, oh shit, me nan's like swinging on the stool, I'm getting off. So threw that in there. Yeah.
Well, it's that type of thing, but it's say the internal kind of monologue, that stuff which, somebody, tells them the truth, that one about, wanting to impress Brian Scanlon without really, knowing why, knowing that they're going into a dodgy situation as well. Yeah. That kind of does pull you in, doesn't it? Kind of.
Yeah. I think, like, hopefully people identify with those kinds of things where in their own lives they can feel, I've done that. Why was I trying to impress that fella then, or that woman? What was that about? Like the guy in the story, he doesn't know what's going on, but he knows he's had it before. it's a familiar pattern for them.
Yeah. Do you just a kind of final thing is that, you know, I think particularly writing very close to home, and particularly in the way that you write, could invite criticism, could even invite kind of anger off people really at times, you know, or are you disparaging people, or are you doing this, that, and the other? Are you afraid of that, or do you think that do you expect any of that? Do you get any of that?
No, it's not. It's not happened so far. No, it's not happened. No one's. My stuff isn't. It's not based on any particular people. It's just general bits I've picked up over the years. But no, I'm not bothered about that really. No.
I think that's one thing actually, and maybe it's an inspiration for others, is that, you know, there's always a bit of yourself in what you're writing. There's going to be always bits of other people, but you know, people don't necessarily look at things, do they? And I personally, you know, it's like reading American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. You know, if you read that and associated that with Bret Easton Ellis, well, he's locked up, wouldn't he?
Of course, of course.
But you do separate out the writer from the work, I think, when, you know, that's fiction at the end of the day. Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You can write about very disturbing stuff and not be disturbed yourself. You know what I mean? It's just fiction. Just made it up. All
right. So look, let me just advertise this. So we've got this Thursday at the 10th at 6 till 7:30. It's an inside job workshop exploring characters' innermost thoughts. Angel is in the detail on the 19th. Fiction is the light through which we tell the truth on the 23rd. But we also have some one-to-one stuff. We have a bit of Enterprise Hub going on as well. It's all at writingonthewall.org.uk under the Writers Block. And we finish, and this is the great thing about the end of the lockdown, isn't it? We're going to finish with the first ever live Writers Block social, 25th of March, 6 till 8 at Toxic TV. And am I right in thinking that people who take part in the residency and that they're going to be on the stage as well to read some of the work?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, get up and do it. Yeah.
And you're going to write a kind of response to your residency in whichever way you want to, some kind of creative response.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So for all that, we get something new out to you as well. So I'm really
exclusive.
And I would say as well that all of the stuff with the Writers Block is absolutely free. So, you know, sign up, encourage your mates to do the same. Please spread the word. PJ, it's been just great chatting to you, mate. It really has.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I went back and reread the algorithm party, and that's what I want to say to you about it. The difference between, you know, you hear something, and it's a bit like hearing a song. You know, you hear it again, and then, you know, there's things stay with you that wouldn't have done, you know, because you've only heard it once. But going back on the page, actually, it really, you know, some things don't work, but I don't mean some things of yours don't work. Sometimes you hear someone, you see it on the page, it doesn't quite work. I think that it has a real depth, and I think, you know, going back over it, there's things that chime with me that I missed the first time, or, you know, when I heard you reading them, type of thing. So, you know, I think it really works. I'm looking forward to what you get, you know, what you get out of people on the residency. And I want to say again, a massive thanks for doing it. You know, it really is our pleasure. And, you know, we know from previous residencies, all the writers that we've done, that it has a big impact. And, you know, I'm sure yours is going to do the same.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks for everyone coming and listening, asking questions and that. Yeah. Enjoyed it.
All right. Well, look, everybody, I think in the chat box, the website stuff has gone up. Check out Writing on the Wall, sign up and subscribe to what we do. We've got all kinds of projects on, and we've got our festival in May coming up that we're programming for at the moment. So, you know, kind of keep in touch, look after yourselves, and we'll see you at the next event with PJ as part of the Writers Block, who is our new writer on the block. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Nice one.
See you later.
See you later. Ta-ra. Finished.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Are we not live now?
No, we're not. No.
Sure.